Meeting, we have with us Ms. Permani Momodu, who is a partner litigation and dispute resolution. She's part of the group, which is partner of litigation and dispute resolution group. We also have Ms. Faith Adeswa, who is a manager, associate, and attorney at EY Law. We also have with us on the first call Mrs. Chinyere Okorocha, who is the partner and head of sectors Jackson and Eti and Edu. So at the moment, we would start with Ms. Permani Momodu. Ms. Permani Momodu, I hope I got your name right, but if you are here, happy International Women's Day, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Comfort. And you sort of turned the name around a bit. So I will introduce myself now, and then hopefully you can get the pronunciation next time. So yes, my name is Perenami Momodu. And yes, I'm a partner in the Disputes Resolution Practice Group at ALEX. And happy International Women's Day, everyone. Thank you to the Africa Law Society, Students Law Society for inviting me and for this wonderful session. It's a bit late in the day, and many of us have had many other International Women's Day affairs today. But I think you say that I have 10 minutes, correct?
Yes, please.
10 minutes. Okay. Okay. So I will keep it. Brief. And I am quite happy with the turnout I'm seeing. I am seeing men and women, which makes me very, very excited. Well, now digging into today's theme, or the theme for this webinar that we're having. I see that the topic is excelling in the legal profession as an African woman. And of course, the theme for this year's International Women's Day event is breaking the bias. But before we even go into breaking the bias, let's even look at this topic that you guys have come up with, excelling in the legal profession as an African woman. Now, when I saw that topic, I thought, well, there's a lot to unpack here. That's because, first of all, as a woman, there are some uphill battles that you face in the legal. An African woman, there are many biases against the typical African woman. And what I would like to focus my 10-minute session on is not about those general biases. I mean, if I mention them, many of us know what they are. But I would like to mention that even though those biases are general in terms of, they say a woman can't do this, a woman has to do that. Many of these biases we women have internalized. And this is where the issue is. I think this is the bias that I would say that we need to break. Now, this bias that I mentioned is biased against ourselves. Now, because society says that, as a woman, you cannot be in a certain type of profession, doesn't mean that we women have to accept it, right? So my issue is that many women have internalized it, and we are even projecting it to ourselves and even to other generations. And this is where we really need to, this is one of the areas that we really need to deal with as African women. Now, again, I'd mentioned before that, again, just being an African woman, there are many biases against us. Now, for those of us in Nigeria, we've seen in the news, the National Assembly not passing laws that allow women have seats on the floor of the Senate. We've seen National Assembly rejecting laws allowing men who now marry African women to take up the nationality, or who marry Nigerian women to take up the nationality of the Nigerian woman. Well, coincidentally, about an hour or two ago, I've seen in the news, something just flashed on my laptop, that the National Assembly has now passed those laws. But what did it take the National Assembly to pass these laws? It took a lot of outbursts. There was a lot of social media rage. There was a lot of disgust, really, at why in 2022, there's still so much bias and discrimination against women. In 2022, we are still struggling with equality, and it took a lot of women complaining and voicing out, and a lot of protests before the National Assembly could upturn this. Now, this is at one level. That's at the level of the lawmakers. Now, if we were to come up again with this bias that we're breaking, with these challenges that we women face, it's almost like there's a wall, you know, an African woman or as a woman in a career, you're working, and there's a wall that you have to break along the way. Now, do the men face these issues? Perhaps. Do they face it as much as women? Maybe not. Now, I would give some challenges that we face as African women. Now, you know, I'd mentioned earlier that some of these biases are unconscious. And because I'm speaking at a student session, one of the things I would like to point out is that we need to work on ourselves to break these biases against ourselves. Like I said, we do it to ourselves, we don't even know because they're unconscious. We've internalized them. You know, the world has told us that as a woman, you know, you cannot be a certain way, and we've accepted it. Now, I will give a few practical examples in terms of the legal profession. Now, in my jurisdiction, if a woman, well, many times, of course, there are many women that have broken many barriers, and we must give kudos to them. But there are many times when women are not expected to excel beyond a certain stage in their career. For instance, I would, the other day, I just come back from court. I go to court. I just come back from court and I was carrying my wig and gown. And as I was parking in, and then somebody who knew me in the office complex had seen me and then said, "Do you go to court?" And I was like, "Of course. I mean, I go. You're seeing me with my wig and gown. I go to court." And then it's like, you know, you're just stressing yourself. Why don't you just apply to be a magistrate and, you know, forget about the stress? You know, if you're a magistrate, you're going to close at 2 p.m. and you can go home to take care of your family or take care of, you know, of your kids or whoever. And then I thought to myself, will you say this to another man? You're not going to see a man and tell the man, why don't you, you know, forget your dreams and do what I ask you to do? Because this is somebody that doesn't really know me that well, telling me what I need to do with my career, telling me that, look, you know, don't aspire to high. And if you know the Nigerian system, in the hierarchy of courts, there's the magistrate court, then there's the high court, then there's the court of appeal, then there's the Supreme Court. So basically, this is a man telling me, because I'm a woman, this is a man telling me, you know what, don't stress yourself, don't even aspire to high, just go to the, you know, the lowest level of these 4 courts that I've mentioned, the magistrate's court, and, you know, have a chilled life. And I'm thinking, why would you think I can't aspire to be at the Supreme Court? I mean, what is stopping me from getting to the Supreme Court? Now, my problem with this is that I'm able to think this way. But there are many other women who feel, you know what, once I finish from school, I'm just going to go to the magistrate court and that's it. Now, this could be because they've not seen women going beyond that, or they haven't encountered women going beyond that level. But the point is that there is nothing stopping us women. I mean, in terms of legislation in Nigeria, for instance, there's no legislation stopping a woman from moving from magistrate court all the way to Supreme Court, right? So, you know, again, some of these biases are construed by the society. Now, again, as an African woman, it might also be tough. And I will give I think if anyone, can you please mute if you're not me that is speaking, please. Let me go on.
Family, I knew I wanted to be a family person. So that kind of drove in the way I do things and my approach to things. There are some opportunities I couldn't take. There are some things that I know, oh, if I want to go this part, you know, it will be a little bit of a struggle for me to do because I want to focus on these other things. I cannot work in a climb where I have to work till 11 p.m. I have to work till 12 midnight because that's not what I want, which is why I say set your priorities. When you know what you want, you are able to tailor your choices, your career choices as you go along as a woman to things that would best benefit you. And when you tailor those choices, there's no point you cannot reach. There's no pinnacle you cannot reach. There's no height you cannot reach within the choices that you make. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Fit. Now, I think throughout your presentation, I heard certain goals for yourself, setting your priorities and all that. Now, there are so many women who go for interviews to work in law firms and they are not allowed. It could be for some simple reasons, but as a manager and a senior attorney or associate attorney, you may have come across a lot of women who have come to you to find jobs. Now, are there some exceptional qualities that is expected to be seen in these women? Or are there some exceptional qualities that you can share with us that must be seen in every woman who wants to make it exceptional in the legal field?
Okay, so and which goes back to my first question of seeing yourself as a person, right? When you're coming into the job interview, there are set criteria for the interview, right? You want to focus on the skills that have been enumerated, and then you also want to do your research, because sometimes some job postings may not necessarily have all the skills in the universe that someone in that role requires. You can do your own extra research in terms of, okay, people that are currently doing this role, thank God, like you have access to like LinkedIn, where you can pull up profiles of people doing similar roles to what you are applying for, and you can see what has this person done, what other things is this person doing, and sometimes you can even set up a conversation. You can send, I've had, people send me messages on LinkedIn to say, I have this maybe job interview coming up, or I have this, can I speak with you? Can I? And then I usually like oblige to say, yes, sure, let's have a chat, let's talk about this. So there are resources that you can reach out to. In terms of the exceptional qualities, again, it just remains the same. When you are consistent in what you do, you're great at school, you are consistent if you're into extracurricular activities, if you're into leadership positions and like different clubs or like different clubs within the school, be consistent in whatever you're doing. There's really nothing extra, so to speak, for you to be exceptional. When you are consistent in what you're doing, it's almost, for when I was interviewing fresh out of law school in Nigeria, I almost always knew I got the job walking out of the interview, because I could like tell from like the conversations, from the responses, from the disposition of the persons that I was talking to. I had multiple job offers, and I turned down a number, before I finally settled on which one I was going to pick. So in terms of, but because I first saw myself as a person, and I've sat, sometimes on like an interview where you're speaking to someone and you can like sometimes tell from the underlying approach, this person is qualified. But when the person talks, I've sat on an interview where the person kept referencing like a family situation in the interview. It was okay to like talk about it, but when you then turn it into the focus of the conversation for an employment, based interview, then you're already shooting yourself in the foot, because you're no longer seeing yourself as a person, but you're focusing on the fact that I'm a woman and I have so many responsibilities, right? Which we know, right? But you're in an interview, that should not be at the forefront of the conversations you're having, based on every question to the fact of what different responsibilities. Then the question then being, are you the right candidate for the job based on the skills and the criteria that has been listed in the job interview?
All right. Thank you very much. In fact, listening to you, there is no doubt that we have to celebrate women, because looking at your biography, you are a woman that have taken up a lot of responsibilities and you still have a family to take care of. That is wonderful. Kudos to you. And thank you very much. If any question comes that is related to you, we'll kindly send it to you. But for now, we'll move on to our next speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker is also another amazing woman in the field of law. Let me say internationally. She is an attorney, a business leader, a board member, an entrepreneur, partner, and head of sector at Jackson, Eti, and Ado. And she is also the founder of Hills and Ladder Career Mentorship Club. I introduce to you Mrs. Chinyere Okorocha. Mommy, happy International Women's Day.
Thank you so much. Comfort, yes. I was trying to remember your name. Good evening, everybody, and thank you for having me here today. I'm so delighted to be here, and happy International Women's Day to us all. I've learned quite a bit from the two speakers who have contributed before me. I was listening intently. And just to pick up from where they some of the points they gave. My question is why? My question is, why are we here today? Why are we in a position to have to analyze what bias is, to have to try and overcome a bias? Mind you, bias means a situation of unfairness. Why are we in this situation today? Why is it even a topic to be discussed? Because if you don't get to the root of a matter, you can't solve it. Everything you're doing will be to patch what is already bad under inside. We're all Africans, and Africa is one. I've traveled to quite a few countries in Africa, and I know that the same principles apply culturally, economically, physically, in the workplace, in business environment. Africa is one. And so the African women I have interacted with have the same issues that I have in Nigeria. Culturally, there's a culture of subjugation of women in Africa, and I dare say in the world in general. If you think back to the fact that even today, in some jurisdictions, women aren't even allowed to vote. Women are not allowed to come out in public and show their faces. Women are not allowed to speak in public. If you think back to the fact that women had to fight for their right to vote, their right to be heard, their right to attain certain heights, then you know that this battle is real. This battle is real, but progress has been made. Because today you and I can stand up and talk and people will listen. Today we have the Secretary General of the WTO is a woman. Today we have some heads of states of nations who are women, but they're few and far between. But the glimmer of hope that it provides when a woman rises to a, let's call it in a male-dominated arena, gives us the hope that change is coming or change will come. But you and I need to stand up and fight for that change. So culturally in Africa, women are, should I say under men, or seen as second-class citizens to men. I still remember one time when I was small, I went to the village and there was a family meeting and all the women were one side and a woman could not stand up and speak. That was maybe 20 years ago. Might be longer, maybe 30. I've been practicing law for 30 years. A woman couldn't stand up and speak. They were only there to provide the food and then let it be on record that they were there. And that's exactly how I felt when the gender bill was presented in the Nigerian National Assembly and they were turned down on all points, maybe 1 point. I think they gave us 20% of something as opposed to the 35% we're asking for. The truth of the matter is there's a culture of bias and it's so difficult to change culture. They say culture eats strategy for breakfast, I think they say. So what do we do about it? What can we do? And as students coming into the work environment, it's important that you recognize that this bias is real. But I'm here to tell you that irrespective of the bias, you can still excel. Irrespective of the gender stereotyping and the limiting biases, you can still excel. And you can excel based on the force of your will, based on the clarity you have as to where you want to go, based on the idea you have for your career in general. And the time to plan is now. It's not when you enter the workforce that any which way the wind blows you, that's where you go. You begin to plan now, even before you get into the workforce. Because I tell you, in the legal profession, gender bias abounds. But it's your ability to be able to stand out from the crowd that will enable you get to the place where you make them gender blind. You do your job so well that they don't even recognize whether you're a man or a woman. you make yourself the obvious choice. Not the obvious choice. You make yourself the only choice, such that when you don't get chosen for that particular opportunity, people will call them to order. Just as the Nigerian National Assembly has been called to order. And I saw some news flash that, okay, they have considered on, I don't know if it's all of the points or some of the points in the gender bill. I haven't read the news flash, but I saw it flash across my phone that there has been change. But change comes from advocacy. If women were silent after the gender bill was rejected, change will not come. So that change and that breaking of the bias, which is the theme for this year's International Women's Day, is you and I that will do it. We, the women, we are the ones that will do it. If we sit back and think that the men will carry it in their hands to make that change, we're lying to ourselves. We have to rise up as one voice to say enough is enough. We have to rise up as one voice and demand for what we want. Just as those women stood outside the National Assembly in Nigeria and refused to go. That's what's brought the change in the policy. And that's what will bring the change in the future. But change takes time. And in the interim, before that change comes, it's important that we position ourselves as female lawyers to be able to be ready to take the opportunities when the time comes. So how do we get ourselves ready? How do we ensure that they become gender blind? How do we ensure that when the opportunity comes, that we're positioned? There's something about positioning that you need to learn earlier on in life. What are the tools that you need in order to ensure that when the opportunities come, you will be the one that will be chosen? And that's what we're talking about today. It's not as if we don't know that there is bias. That goes without saying. But for me, the important thing is, what do we do about it? What can we do to scale irrespective of the bias? And I have 10 points that I'd like to share with you today. We know what the biases are, being, passed over for promotion, sometimes sexual harassment. I'm not going to go into that today because it's not part of the discussion, but I must mention that it does occur in the legal profession, unequal pay. And that unequal pay, it is so rampant, but it's done in a subtle manner, because your salary can be at par with a man who is at the same years at the bar with you, but then the perks are different. So someone I was mentoring, she says, all the men, their house rent is paid, but her boss has said that how can he pay rent for another man? Meanwhile, you're doing the same job and even more than your male counterpart. So it's subtle. It comes in the opportunities for travel. Sometimes the allowances they give men and women when they're going on official assignment are different. I have a poem here that I'll read before I get to the 10 points on what you have to do in order to ensure that, irrespective of the bias, that you will excel. And I'm just going to read it for you, just to give you a sense of what you're facing when you come out. But don't be afraid. We have excelled. All the women on the call, the speakers on the call today have excelled. They've shown you that it is possible. So don't be afraid. So this poem, I didn't write it myself, but I found it so apt. It was a senior member of the bar, a mentor to me also from afar. I was on a speaking panel with her last year, and she read out this poem, and I'm going to read it out. It says, the family picture on his desk. People would then say, he's a solid, responsible family man. But the family picture on her desk, her family will come before her career. His desk is cluttered. He's obviously a hard worker and a busy man. Her desk is cluttered. She's obviously a disorganized, scatterbrain. He's talking with his co-workers. He must be discussing the latest deal. She is talking with her co-workers. She must be gossiping. He's not at his desk. He must be at a meeting. She's not at her desk. She must be in the ladies' room. He's not in the office. He's out meeting clients. She is not in the office. She must be out shopping. He's having lunch with the boss. He's on his way up to a promotion. She is having lunch with the boss. They must be having an affair. And this is the story. Men and women are treated differently in the workplace. Men and women get different perks, different rewards for the work they do. Women are denied certain opportunities by the mere fact that they are women. The same number of men and women graduate from university every year. Sometimes the women win all the prizes. The young lady who spoke before me, she was second best graduating student, and that is the trend. So we come out at the same level from university and we enter the workforce. Really and truly, we enter the workforce just as easily as the men do. And then we start our career. So when we start, we're at par. But at some point in that career journey, the story changes. The man begins to go up because the woman, she got married. The African woman got married and started taking care of her husband. It's not like we're women leaders, like maybe the Western world, where you and the man will both be cooking the food and cleaning the house. In Africa, the woman does the housework and cooks for her husband and makes sure his stomach is full. And so the man is rising. You're distracted with husband and house. Then all of a sudden, the children come. That's another thing. You start to do the pregnancy. If you're unlucky and the pregnancy is a difficult one, obviously it's going to affect your productivity in the workplace. Then you go for the maternity leave. Then you understand. Then the man is still rising. You're still below him. And then it goes on and on. And then after a while, the guy reaches the mid-senior level, right? And then the next step is management level. And so there's so many men at that level, but very few women in the below that level. So when the opportunities for leadership come, the men are already positioned. And the woman is there battling with childbirth, being a mother, a wife, a daughter, doing homework, going on school run, and juggling the work along the way. And you see that a lot of women drop out of the legal profession at that time, unfortunately. But for those of us who stick it out, that find a way to still remain in that profession, I mean, the reward is very, very encouraging. I remember myself, I learned very early that the things that are important to me are being a career woman and my family. And I made a point very early in life that I would juggle the two. And I always tell this story about how I had my first daughter. She was about 4 months, 4 months old. And what was reigning then, like Nigerians say, was that you must give the child breast milk only for 6 months. And if you do that, your child will be immune for life. And so here I was, I had resumed work after the 3 months maternity leave. An opportunity to travel abroad for a conference came up. And I didn't want to pass up the opportunity. I had said that my job will not suffer because I'm a mother, and my child will not suffer because I'm a mother. So what did I do? My husband bought a generator. And if you know anything about children, you know that if you express and keep breast milk in the freezer for a year, once you have power, it doesn't go bad. So we created a plan. God bless my husband. And the plan was that I would express the milk a month before the trip, store it in the freezer. I will bring my mother from the village to come and stay in my house. Then we'll start giving the child the breast milk before I travel. And then I would travel with my breast pump. And if you keep expressing milk, apologies to the men who may be here, but you have wives, you have sisters, you have mothers. So please forgive my French. If you keep expressing the milk keeps producing. So I traveled to England with my breast pump And I'll go to the conference in the morning, all through late afternoon. Then I'll go back to the hotel room and express out the milk, just so that the milk continued flowing. And when I got back to Lagos 2 weeks after, I put my baby to the breast and she continued sucking. So I was able to breastfeed her for that 6 months that I felt she needed to have. I mean, it's all silly now. I can't imagine what gave me the mindset. But it takes that kind of mindset to want to succeed and not fail at any of the roles that might come your way as a woman. So I want to encourage you today, hard work pays off. So the 10 points, quickly, I'll run through them because I know my time is fast spent. The last speaker spoke to it a little bit, but the important thing is that let's leave gender out of it. And I say, let's leave gender. You can't always play the gender card. Oh, it's because I'm a woman. They're discriminating against me. I was the best, but they didn't choose me because I'm a woman. Were you really the best? Did you put in everything you had in the situation that had arisen? Did you burn the night oil? Did you take your breast pump to London to express milk and come back and continue breastfeeding your child? Did you do everything in your power that you were supposed to do? So it's important that you know your stuff. Don't just be a beauty and a dumb blonde, as they like to call it. Know your stuff. You need to be able to have the information, train yourself, whatever you need to do in order to excel, so that, like I said, you become the obvious choice. Please do it. So point number 1, leave gender out of it. Point number 2, equip yourself by training or whatever it is you need to improve upon. 3, ask for help if you need it. Never think that you need to run this journey alone. You can't do it alone. As a woman, you must have help. That help will either come in the place of your mother, like I did, a family relation, your husband, get him on board, tell him your goals and your aspirations and your dreams. If he loves you, he will let you excel and be the best possible version of yourself. There are 3 stuff that I think every woman must have: a driver, at least in Africa, where the traffic is terrible, a cook or nanny, and a housekeeper. Those 3, don't compromise on them, because you will get old before your age, older than your age, and your husband will forever look young if you do not take care of yourself and look for help. That help can also come in the form of colleagues in the office who can stand in for you when you need to do other things, even as students. So look for people who will have your back. Number 4 or 5, what company are you keeping? Who are the people around you? Who are the people you're emulating? They say we're the sum total of the closest 5 people that we have, because human beings mimic other human beings. So to the extent to which you have forward-thinking, hard-working, going somewhere people around you, you will mimic what they're doing. But if your friends are only interested in partying, interested in taking hard drugs, whatever it is you people call it these days, the young people, or they're not interested in education, or your friend is only interested in getting married, looking for a man and getting married, or in partying, you will begin to mimic them, because human beings mimic other human beings. So have people around you that will hold you accountable, that you said you want to get a first class in school, and they will see you doing the wrong thing and call you to order. Have a good network of friends. You can't do it on your own. Also look for mentors. Mentors are people who have been where you want to go and can hold your hand and show you the way. I got a mentor very early on in my career, but it was a mentorship from afar. This whole concept of mentoring wasn't that so strong. I mean, I was called to the bar 30 years ago, so you can imagine the era I'm talking about. But there was this woman I used to emulate. She was so well put together, makeup, hair, shoes, whatever. And I like those things. But the thing that got me was that she was so intelligent. When she enters the room, the men stand up and she will talk and they will listen. And I told myself that it's not just about being pretty or looking pretty. It's about what's in here and what you have to say, so that when you open your mouth, people will listen. And that's what I want for you today. Personal branding, the other lady talked about it also. It is invaluable. Personal branding is establishing yourself as an expert in some field in your career, but you have to create it in such a way that you want what you want to be known for. Everybody has a personal brand, whether you want it or not. It can be a negative one, or it can be something that you've created as yourself. I'm known as an intellectual property expert. I've been practicing it for 30 years. I'm also known as a medical legal practitioner. I'm also known as a career coach. What perception are you creating of yourself out there? Are you visible? Women have been taught to be seen and not heard, but that era is gone. Speak your truth, find your voice, ask for what you want. Women should learn to negotiate positively on behalf of themselves. I know that stereotypically, when women negotiate on behalf of themselves, they get backlash, but there are ways that you can overcome the backlash. I take a course in a Women's Leadership Academy. I take negotiating and navigating business and career. And that course kind of teaches you that as a woman, there's a way to do your negotiation such that at the end of the day, success is achieved. I don't know what number I'm on, but I'll just continue. Learn to delegate. Women were so interested in doing everything ourselves. We don't think that anybody can do it as well as we do. But learn to delegate. Learn to delegate. Let the people around you, let them make their own mistakes and find their way. That's the only way. And you move on to more strategic thinking. Look for thinking time that you just sit back and analyze and develop what you want to do, the goals you want to achieve, short-term, medium-term, and long-term. Create a career plan, even as you're in school now. What do I want to be? And you veer towards it. You look for mentors in that area. You set your goals and you work towards them. Setting goals is about getting you from point A to point B, and your goals are the things that take the bridge that takes you across. Set boundaries. Women, we like to take on everything, but learn to say no. The last point is that it doesn't have to be perfect. The biggest problem we suffer sometimes as women, or second to last point, is that we look for perfection. And in looking for perfection, we get, paralyzed and take no action at all. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be done. So if you can get to 70, 80%, you juggle it. I'm sure that the situation I found myself in juggling or trying to look for that perfect work-life balance, about being a breastfeeding mother and a career woman, neither was perfect, but it was okay. I got through. So, good is better than not doing anything at all. And then your health is your wealth. That's the last point. Look out for your health, both physical and mental. Because I tell you, if you are not physically or mentally fit to do the job, then nothing gets done. You can't even help anybody else. So I'm really hoping that irrespective of the mantra about bias and inequality and gender stereotypes and all that you take away the point that irrespective of that, we can get to the top as women. We can create the work environment we want. We can scale. We can be the best possible version of ourselves, despite the bias. But if we keep at it, if we keep up the advocacy, if we keep up lifting each other up, and keeping the points in front of us that the bias is unwelcome, change will come. We have to be the change that we want. So thank you so much, and I'll be here to take some questions.
Great. We really appreciate this. In fact, we want to appreciate your husband for being a supportive husband to you in your career.
Absolutely.
So I don't know, but I noticed that the poem you told us in your presentation speaks volumes. While men are considered or seen to be serious, women are seen the opposite, as if we have no aim in life. Meanwhile, we all exist to work together. You have mentioned this already, but I want you to stress on it that Most often, we are here to look for how to excel in the legal profession as women. Women might excel at work, but at some time, various home pressures, like you expressed early on, from childcare to education and household chores, are often piled up, leading to major stress, burnout. Sometimes they even have to drop out of the job. What steps can women take to balance their greater responsibilities to their profession and their role as childbearers and family sustainers?
So thank you so much for that question, Comfort. I believe I have answered it even before you have asked it, but maybe just to drill down on some of the points. What does balance really mean? And I always like to use, where's my ruler? when talking about balance, people often say achieving a work-life balance, but I say it should be striving for a work-life balance. So if I were to put this here, let's see. Don't mind me, I like to show physical. So if this were a scale, so is this thing is properly balanced now, right? It's not falling either way. But balance, your life is possibly like this, where it's some sort of pendulum. So sometimes it falls in this direction, and sometimes it moves to the other direction. So your work and your life, your professional and your personal life, are like a pendulum. Sometimes it bears in one direction and sometimes it bears in the other. So whether you think you can and whether you think you can't, you are correct. It's a striving for. Even as you try to balance and juggle, women are like master jugglers. We juggle so many things, balls at the same time. But it's your ability to be able to catch yourself when you're veering off in one direction. And then you catch yourself again when you're veering off in the other direction. At some point, there'll be some sort of equilibrium that is reached, even as you strive for the top. And so that work-life balance means being conscious. It's more about being conscious of the fact that you have to strive for that balance. That your work, when you're fully at work, then be at work and do your work and be the best at your work. And when you're at home, you also are able to put in your best at home. But in both situations, recognize that you can't do it alone. You're not a superman or a superwoman. This superwoman syndrome has caused so much harm because men always have, in Nigeria, we call it my second. You understand? The Oga at the top always has the minions below. But women, we are power women, we want to do it all. We do the homework, we do the school run, we do the cooking, we do the cleaning. Then we come on top and we do the job in the house. You understand? Now you get to the workplace, you're struggling, you need to ask for help. You need to engage people. You need to delegate. And that's the only way that you can achieve success in the workplace as well as in the home. For me, my family is so important. Can we please mute? My family is so important. And anything that affects my family, everybody in my office knows it. If I get a call from my child's school, I get on the plane and I'm off to go and take care of it. And my workplace understands. So in choosing a career, choose a career that will align with your core values. There's an exercise I do in the Hills and Ladders Club that we call it identifying your core values. Those are things that are intrinsic to your being. For me, family is there, flexibility is there, my Christianity is there, my professionalism, my career is there. Those are core values to me that if I'm not living my values, I will never feel fulfilled. So try and develop or identify what your core values are earlier on in life. Can we please mute? Can we please mute? So that you can know what you should accept and what you should not accept. Another thing is identifying what your strengths and weaknesses are. Because your strengths and weaknesses will also help you to veer towards areas where you have strengths. It doesn't mean you shouldn't work on the things that you're not so good at. I don't even like to use the word weakness. Everybody has a skill that they're good at, you understand? So things you're not so good at, you can work at them, but try and choose a profession that you can play to your strengths. And it's because Some people are born with a natural ability, like those footballers. They pick them early before they've even learned any skill, but they now hone their skills. So if you can identify an area of strength for yourself, then you do more of it and you become perfect at it and you excel at it. And any career you go into that uses those strengths, you will reach the top. So I hope this addresses, so that I don't take up too much time and allow other speakers to come on. I could talk forever on this topic. It's so, so important to me that women find their voices, that women excel, that women, strive for the very best, irrespective of the bias.
Thank you very much. One thing we must take from Mrs. Chinyere is that women must find their voice. Women must do it, and women can do it. Thank you very much. We really appreciate your time and effort. Now, before we invite our next speaker, I would want to share some few housekeeping reminders so that if you have forgotten, you would be reminded. Always keep your microphones muted when someone is presenting. Because of issues with low internet bandwidth, all participants except our keynote speakers must kindly keep their videos off. This meeting is being recorded and being broadcasted via Facebook and all our platforms. Thank you very much. All right, so we have in our mix this evening, if we are using Nigerian time, another amazing personality who would be speaking to us very soon. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a woman who is a lawyer. She is a socialist and a diplomat. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome our Honorable Ambassador of Nigeria to the United States of America, Uzoma, Dr. Mrs. Uzoma Emenike. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Indeed, it's a pleasure to be invited to share my experience with the African Law Students Association. Unfortunately, I think I have just 30. I'm not going to present the I have, but what I intend to do is, after it will be sent to the email address that the association used in communicating with me. But let me first of all say a big thank you to Mrs. Okorocha. I didn't join in early because of other previous engagement, but at least the tail end, about the 5 to 10 minutes that I joined in, where she was talking about breast milk and having to pump out the breast milk to store for the child at the point in time, I was just laughing because I know I did that, And what I intend to do is, whatever profession you want to go into, just make sure you have a passion for it. Yes, this year's Women's Day theme is break the bias, which means a lot of things to a lot of people. But today, what are we doing? We are celebrating Women's Day. So let me say Happy Women's Day for both the women and the men on this platform. The fact remains, if you're not a woman with us, you have a mother. Even if you don't have a sister, you have a mother who is a woman. So Happy Women's Day to every single one of us, both the ladies and the men folks. So what I intend to do is just give a brief summary of what my presentation would have been. But what I want to hamper on is, no matter what you do, be a better version of yourself. Just keep to your lane. Don't compete with the other person. And just as Mrs. Okorocha was saying, you cannot do it alone. It's a team effort. You need people to help you to be good at whatever it is you have chosen to do. Yes, today, the topic is about excelling in the legal profession as an African woman? What are the challenges? What are the prospects? What are the possibilities? But for me, all I'll say is you can actually turn it around. Things can become possible where for other people it's not possible. It depends on you. You determine who you want to be. You determine what is best for you. You determine how you want to approach things. But at the end of the day, it's about you. Let me just give a simple example with myself. When I set up to do my doctorate degree program, as at that time, I have 3 children. They were within the ages of 2.5 years and 9 months. And I was pregnant with the 4th one. Of course, people were like, you're going for a PhD program? How are you going to do it? How are you going to cope? And I'm like, if you're determined and you're ready to do it, you can do it. So it's all about you. What are you determined to do? For some other people, it may not be possible. But for you, if you decide within yourself and say, I will be able to do it. Of course, with the team support or the support of your team around you, then you can always do it. Yeah, there's a lot of barriers, there's a lot of biases, but at the end of the day, we all have to tell ourselves the truth. What you decide to be is who you end up being. The people you surround yourself with is very, very important. Mentorship is very, very important. Who is your role model? Yes, we're talking of balancing our family life, our work life, at every point in time, there's no way it's going to be 50-50. You decide which one comes for the order. For me personally, when I have to be home, when I have to be in the office, I'm in the office. There's this issue people talk about, multitasking. Well, I doubt if we can really multitask. Because the way our brain is wired, it's wired in such a way that you can always concentrate on one thing at a time. But you can actually be able to handle, so many things at different times. You're a mother, you're a wife, you're a career woman, you're a sister, you are a friend, But you realize at the time you are in the office doing your career job, you cannot at the same time be a mother. You realize when you are at home, being your motherly role, you cannot at the same time be a career woman. Of course, some of us know that with pandemic, we ended up working from home. I mean, if we tell ourselves the honest truth, whilst we're at home doing your career duty, you had to concentrate on getting the job you needed to do done. And when you needed to have time with your family, you are out there to have out there to have the time with your family. There was no way you could have been working and you're paying attention to your family. It would have gone that way. I mean, at the end of the day, you wouldn't have achieved anything, or your productivity at that time wouldn't be the best of what usually you achieve. So at any point in time, you will be focused on either being a mother, being a career woman, being a wife, or whatever it is, or being a friend. But the most important thing is realizing that, yes, you have this career, it is there. You are a mother, you give your time to your motherly role. You are a wife, you give your time to being a wife. At the end of the day, it depends on you. It depends on what you want to do, what you want to achieve, and how you want to juggle it, how you want to handle it. I mean, if you think because A, B, C, and D are doing well in that area, let me copy them or let me do it their own way. No, it doesn't work that way. You have to decide and ask yourself, what do I want to do? Yes, there are some people who are practicing with their legal degree, and there are some of us who are in the office, using our legal certificate to do the job in the office as well. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is the knowledge you have. You are equipped, you have the education, and you have that determination, you have this zeal to be the best version of yourself. Not of any other person, but you competing with your own self, not competing with another person. It helps a lot. And it helps for you to be focused and ask yourself, what is my goal? What am I looking forward to achieving in life? Let me just say this last, because I can see I have just barely 4 minutes remaining. Let me just say this thing. I remember last year, in the month of July last year, I had to give a presentation, a little talk to some 17, 18-year-old girls in a girls' secondary school in the United Kingdom. I mean, it was their last day in the school before they go off to the uni or to do something else, And I was telling them, I said, listen, yes, you're looking at some of us who you think may have broken the glass ceiling. We didn't get here all of a sudden. It takes some hard work. At times it takes some holding your pillow to cry. At times it takes some sweat as well. At times it takes some doubt in you. Will I really be able to do this? I told them, I said, listen, just know what your passion is. If you know what your passion is, you can actually make a career out of that passion of yours. From an early age, I had always known that I wanted to be in a career that has to do with public relations. And if you tell me the job of a diplomat is nothing but job of an international public relations person, you're a public relations manager, because you are managing the relations between your country and the country you'll be sent out to. So you have to juggle both together. So as a law student, some of you might end up being, practitioners like the previous speaker before me, and some of you might end up even as bankers. Some of you might end up in teaching, as legal professors. But the most important thing is, now that you are trying to acquire this certificate of being a lawyer, what is your passion? In what area do you want to be an expert? And in what area do you think you'll be home? You feel at home, rather, in excelling in that area. That is very, very important. Once you know what your niche is, I tell you, the sky will always be your limit. And at the end of the day, this issue of, oh, I didn't get it because I'm a woman, just like Mrs. Okorocha said, wouldn't come in, because you know your niche, you know what you're good at doing, and you know you can easily excel in that. So thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you too. Thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. We got one question from one of our viewers online. This is from Chelsea Benson. She asks quite a strange question. She says that the celebration of International Women's Day is as old as a century. Do you think the celebration so far has been worth it?
I will say yes, it's been worth it. Of course, the very first time they celebrated Women's Day, it's 1911, so a century ago. And there's been progress. There's been progress. The worst thing we can do is not to celebrate it. The best thing we should do is to continue the way we are going. Because when we look at the progress that women have made, we've come a long way. Yes, there's still so many road ahead of us, but we'll get there. That we are even having this conversation today is a sign of positivity. That our fellow, our male folks are joining us to celebrate us. I mean, it's something positive. So personally, and I want to believe that most women will even say that, let's keep up the celebration. It is because we value it, that is why we are spending time to actually do what we are doing today.
Thank you very much, Her Excellency. We are very grateful for your time and your effort. God bless you.
Thank you so much.
All right, so we are moving on to our next speaker. We thank you all for being here with us. We are speaking on this day, International Women's Day. We are celebrating women all over the world, and we are very privileged to have with us a senior state counsel of the Federal Ministry of Justice, who is also sorry, I just noticed I was muted. Sorry if you lost me. So I am introducing our next speaker. Our next speaker is a senior state counsel of the Federal Ministry of Justice. She received so many presidential honors, and this evening we are privileged to have with us Mrs. Olubukola Anike Ajiga. Mommy, if you are here, happy International Women's Day, and the floor is yours.
Wishing you same. A point of correction, I'm not yet married. And
Okay.
I wish I were, but I'm not yet married. That's the reality at the moment. So yeah, I keep emphasizing that.
Thank you for that correction.
Yeah. I really want to commend you guys to start with. I mean, this is a great initiative you're actually championing, and ahead of me, notable speakers have actually itemized a lot of points. I mean, this is just so loaded. Fitting into your shoes will just be unparalleled. So the topic, as we all know, is excelling in the legal profession. And I told the facilitators today that I'll be adding excelling in the legal profession vis-a-vis leadership roles as an African woman, the challenges, prospects, and possibilities. Now, I'm not much of an orator as I am a writer, but I'm gonna try my best, you know, to hit the hammer on the nail. First and foremost, I would define excellence as outstanding landmark achievement above a benchmark threshold. Don't look for that in the dictionary, it just came like that. So that's my definition of excellence. So I like to ask questions. So I'm going to be asking that, why did you study law? What informs your study of law? For instance, I was told to, my mom told me I wanted to be a medical doctor, but right from 9 years old, you know, I'd been engaging in moot court trials and things like that in my secondary school. And I just wanted to be a lawyer. And also, I never knew how to balance the equation. I don't know if you recollect balancing the equation in secondary school. So I just went to study law. So you must know your inner strength, like other speakers had initially mentioned. You know your innate and cognate abilities, and you know what's actually propelling you to study law. You know, is it because of the money you're studying law? If it's because of the money, if you relocate to some jurisdiction, you will find out that there might not be places for you. And so like some of us, in some way, some people are actually changing career paths. You might be surprised to know that a lot of lawyers in the UK now are actually pursuing healthcare work, nursing jobs and things like that. So that's the reality, particularly if you don't have connections, if you don't have people to give you that supporting balance that you might need. I mean, trailing the line of support. So why do you want to study law? What informs your decision to study law? You know that if you're going to be studying law, or better still, just as you're studying law, you know that you have to be diligent. I mean, you can't just negotiate your way through. You know, you have to study very hard. And the only place where success comes before work, you know, it's only in the dictionary. So you have to work very, very hard. Now, I have another question here. It says, what are the requisite skills to acquire in your pursuit of excellence? My first point here is you've got to be diligent and dexterous. I mentioned that earlier. And sometimes some people have difficulties when they study, you know, they have difficulties comprehending. I remember while I was in NYSC, there was this officer who actually had issues with her daughter who wanted to like back out from studying law. She was in Cameroon then, and she was like, she can pass and study, I mean, study and pass, but she just don't want to, it's too tough for her. So, you know, if you're actually, for instance, for me, if I take something like ginger, what do you call this? Walnut can actually boost your memory, your brain to be able to, you know, study and comprehend faster. And that's just for within the curriculum, within the school, 4 walls of your school, to be able to excel, because not everybody just studies and, you know, comprehend and be able to have first class, even though I had a first class eventually, but just to speak in favor of everyone, their brains, energy, I mean, intellect stimulating meals you can always take to boost your memory capacity. Number 2 on my list here is paying attention to minute details. In law, you can't really negotiate this. I mean, we're talking about you're paying attention to names of people, parties, you know, date and time, and the principles and procedures of law, you know, the nuances of law and things like that, the general rules and the exceptions, the multiple exceptions, and this will actually help you. For instance, I'm going to be talking about real life scenarios. I like to be very, very raw and realistic. So, and I'll be using myself as an example in most scenarios. So last year, I think I had some experiences here in the UK, and, you know, contacting lawyers, I mean, I was quite disappointed because a lot of people were like, no, you don't have the local standing to do this. No, you don't have, like, no, this is not the principle of law. This is, even though you are working as an agency, this is what the rules of law says in your agency. Remember your commercial law and, you know, company law, things like that. So, you know, I remember a lawyer trying to mix up vicarious liability with ultra-vires, the rules of ultra-vires, like we're lifting the veil of incorporation. So you must just be intentional. You must pay attention to details, because if lawyers are making these kind of mistakes, I mean, you must just be up and going to be able to know that this is not what the law says. The 3rd on my list is being intentional and thorough in depth of knowledge. And that is how you'll be able to know that, oh, in this respect, I have the local standing to do so, and so. When the textbook are not there to even guide you in what to do, because the law is part of you. And that's why I asked, why do you study law? Is it mom that said you should study law? Are you the one that actually had that innate cognitive ability to study law? Now, your definition of I would like to say that if money is actually what informed your studying of law, then you might get distracted at some point. Like I earlier alluded to, a lot of people are actually doing healthcare work, and I am part of those people doing healthcare work in the United Kingdom, because I don't want to rule out the fact that you can get a paralegal job, but you will barely have access, despite my first class. And my first class was even the second master's degree. So despite that, it's the reality on ground is you don't get that job. You would likely not get that job. Luckily for me, my core strengths are not really, law is part of it, but I also have the humanitarian side. So it makes me to be more flexible. And I think I got that trait from my mom. My mom was once a banker, and when there was in the defunct National Bank, and when they had crises, you know, she went into trading. So I could always be flexible despite my exposure to law, maritime law, and all the stuffs like that. So that's that about that. I remember there was a time while I was in my chamber attachment, my principal asked me, what do you want to actually do? I told her I want to be fulfilled. So you've got to be able to define what you want. Like the second speaker said, identify yourself as a person. Coincidentally, I wrote here that you value your own personhood. You have to value who you are as a human being. So in your study of law, you must know what you want. For instance, in my study of law, I want to impact lives, and I want to, whatever I'm doing, I want to mix it up with, humanitarian services, and I'm happy at what I do. In my experience during my NYSC, I remember I was deployed to a rural area, despite my 2-1 result, and I really was displeased at that. And when I got there, every time I want to just relocate using connections, people were like, oh, you never can tell, wait, it could be the will of God. And the land was just devoid of all social amenities, name it, no light, no road, no water, no potable water, and no network, nothing. And when I got there, within 6 days, I connected with a Lebanese man who just, started a project in my behalf without any requirement and things like that. And that was how I could, move on, and all the states, got to know about it. And in the process of broadcasting all of these projects, other people, some people told me then that they were in the university and they watched it and they were encouraged, and they also won National Honors Award in the process. So whatever you're doing, make sure you're making giant strides. Make sure you're actually getting fulfilled. For me, I just want to be fulfilled, and that's that. Now, I also have here that whatever your definition of excellence is, will influence the standards, procedures, and roadmaps you uphold. Because the previous speakers had already mentioned, there are actually a lot of challenges. For instance, all the sexual harassment thing. When you have some goals, there are going to be some things that want to infiltrate your goals. There are going to be a lot of things that want to distract your attention. The standards you uphold will determine the sacrifices you will pay and the detriment you will suffer when you get overstretched. So however good intentions attend the sacrifices you make, if there's a falling standard, the whole procedure that you adopt will become fault with, a lot of irregularities and things like that. I remember when I was in secondary school, there's this issue of mathematics. I had issues with mathematics, and, we'll be given questions to solve, and we just want to get to the answers at all costs, using we want to use the formulas, but we just want to get to the answer. No, life is about procedure. You've got to follow the right steps in everything. You don't just arrive at the answer. If you arrive at the answer with the wrong procedure, then you just know something is just lacking. So in everything you do, make sure you're following the right procedure. I'll give you another instance. While I was pursuing my first master's degree in Unilag, and I say this with every sense of belonging, I moved closer to school, closer to Unilag in order to study. And while I was studying, the class rep of my maritime class and energy class my energy class to be precise, was in the room with me, Emil, where we're studying, and it was communicating with somebody else about the exam questions, the likely exam questions. I had the questions. And if you know maritime law, it's easy in practice, but when you're studying it, the marks are not just given just like freely like that. So I had the questions that were going to come out, as per class reps and things like that. But for integrity's sake, I just wouldn't budge to study about that. And the questions came out like that, and at least till date, I'm so proud of myself that I never, I never had to succumb to that, because it is a form of examination malpractice. outside of classroom. The lecturer must have leaked out the questions to the class reps. So whatever you're doing, make sure you're upholding integrity. It may not be easy, but it will pay off on the long run. During my NYSC days also, I must say there were a lot of distractions, because while I was doing that, while I was doing a lot of projects, I had to surmount a lot of orders, you know. At some point I was like, oh, if this is what leadership is about for women, I think maybe I might have to back out, because every nook and cranny, you know, men just wanted you for the wrong reasons, because you were embarking on projects. Because you were embarking on projects. And that's why I still ask, why do you do what you want? Why do you do what you do? Because that will be the propelling force for you to be able to push forward against all others. Like at some point I had to tell myself, it's not a do or die thing. You know, the Lebanese man was like, let's go to the next village. And, you know, I was like, no, the next village is not London. So why will I go with you to the next village? You know, so when you notice that, well, I mean, when you come to the realization that where you are now, it's not your defining characteristic, because we always want to aim higher than where we are now. And definitely you will get there if you don't give up on yourself. So yeah, am I in the UK? I mean, if I'd compromised my stand there on different grounds, maybe I would still be here, maybe not, you know, but at least something out of my self-esteem would be missing. Something will be missing out of my self-esteem. So in whatever you're doing, make sure you're doing it in the right way. I've got another question. What are some of the values you want to imbibe? Because you can't just do things haphazardly like that. You've got to have certain values that will keep you pushing through. Because some people have success and yet they don't feel that fulfillment, they don't feel that joy, they don't feel that satisfaction. They still keep comparing themselves with others. You are different. You are unique from other persons. So stay contented. Stay contented. Again, be intentional, be thorough, be disciplined. Let nothing rob you of your self-confidence, your self-love, who you are. Place premium on yourself. You will need a full dose of it. I tell you, you will need a full dose of self-esteem in everything.
Hello, Ms. Ajiga, please, you're muted.
My goodness, I'm so sorry.
Just now.
Just now?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I said you've always heard of you might have heard of the saying, the lawyers are liars, but lawyers are not all liars, okay? Lawyers are liars because they were liars before they became lawyers. So learn to speak the truth, learn to stand by the truth, be honest. It's very, very important in a society that, filled with a lot of falsehood. People don't even find anything wrong in all of these vices that transcends our society today. As a person, I would not want you to objectify yourself. Maybe you're a woman, or yeah, definitely the gender is, you can't controvert that, but be honest. These are values that we need in the society. You need it. I need a full dose of it. We all need it. We need to be truthful no matter what. I'm saying this because during my practice of law, before I relocated into the United Kingdom, I was in this SAN's law chamber where I was working, and my colleague told me how he kind of, maneuvered the court to do what he wanted in favor of his client, and they had to lie through it. You don't need to do that just because of money. His clients buying him iPhone, these, and life, your value as a person is more important than all these ephemeral, transitory objects that won't, have no value for the afterlife and things like that, and for your self-esteem. So be honest, be truthful, be resilient, pushing against all boundaries, but flexible also. The reason I'm talking about flexibility is, for instance, for me, despite my experience in law, practicing law, first master's, second master's, coming out with distinction in my second master's, I still don't find anything, that will stop me from doing the right thing just to eke out a living. If you understand what I mean, for instance, from childhood, I love to give to people. And when I moved into when I was in NYSC, I did a larger service to humanity through that. While I was working, while we were given the scholarship jobs and scholarship to PhD level, the money was not forthcoming from the federal government. And I had to take the initiative. Oh, we have to conduct protests with respect to this. And people are like, no, we're going to lose our job. We're civil servant, blah, 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 blah. No, if you don't break the law, you're not going to be sanctioned by the federal government. And as tight as I am, I had to organize protests, and, provided you don't just malign the government, you have to speak, you have to be diplomatic in your approach when you're dealing with people in life and things like that. So I organized the protest, and at the right time also, because it was election period, and the government released the money. We organized the first one, the second one, we're about to do the third one. And that was how the federal government released the funds for that. So know what to do, be flexible part-time. If you say, oh, I'm a lawyer, this and that, and I wear suit and all the stuff, there are some situations that will be beckoning on you to come out from your cocoon, to come out from what what you think you are into who you actually are. How do I say this? What society thinks you are into who you actually are. Yes, I'm a lawyer, that's incontrovertible, but if I have to, just like I am right now, I clean poop in the United Kingdom because I've got to pay my bills. There are no paralegal jobs. I'm not being pessimistic, but I've been here for a while and there are no paralegal jobs as such. So I better do something that would put food on my table and I'll be able to pay my humongous rent than doing shady practices like fraudulent stuff or whatnot, or trading my body for something else. So be flexible. Networking also, I really want to commend you guys again for what you're doing. This is something so laudable. Team player spirit, you've got to have that spirit. Working in connection with people just as you guys are doing right now and exemplifying. So I also want to say that making honest living is very, very, very important. As lawyers, we've been groomed from law school. You've got to be fit and proper and things like that. So you've got to keep up with that momentum and things like that. Your location will always affect, will definitely always affect some things in your life. So make sure you're in the right location, doing the right things. If you want to practice law, except if you want to go into the academia, I say this with all sense of belonging. I know there will be lawyers in the UK and things like that. I wouldn't be able to speak for how they've been thriving. If you don't have connections and you don't want to go into academia, you might want to reconsider the location you might want to go into, or else, like a couple of lawyers here, they're actually going into healthcare, trying to pursue career in nursing, and it's quite strange what people actually go through. Going on placement in the daytime, and by nightfall, trying to work another shift just to be able to pay school fees. People are dying as a result. A Nigerian just died January 7th as a result of working back to back. So face life by making honest living. Live within your honest, ostensible means. Now, last but not the least, I have yes, it says, do the dirty job, but don't be enmeshed in the field. Do the dirty job, but not the filthy job. Don't objectify yourself. And what I mean by that is that, for instance, I told you that one of my core strengths is humanitarian services, apart from my study of law and all of that. Even though I do humanitarian services, the compromises that comes with that, I don't have to succumb to that. I can't just begin to say them literally what they are. But as a woman, people who want to objectify you, do not succumb to that. You can do the filthy job. I mean, you can do the dirty job without being filthy. I clean poop in the United Kingdom as a lawyer with first class, 2 master's degree, National Honors Award, federal prosecutor. I still clean poop. My name is Anike. Do the dirty job, but don't do the filthy job. People are going to want to mess up with your identity. Don't lose track of it. I hope I've not been a talkative. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much. Don't lose track of your identity. That's a good way to end your presentation. I noticed throughout your presentation, you've answered them all, so there wouldn't be a need to ask you the questions again. We really appreciate your time and we are grateful for having you here. Thank you very much, Miss Anike Ajiga.
My pleasure. Thank you so very much for having me.
Thank you too. All right, thank you all for being here. We have our next speaker who is going to speak to us in few minutes because she has to leave. Her name is Shade Abiodun. She's a solicitor and an advocate of the Crown Court in UK. You would notice that throughout her study of constitutional law, administrative law, and the legal systems, we hear of the Crown Court in the United Kingdom. We are glad to have somebody from that court this evening to speak to us. Miss Shade, the floor is yours if you are here with us.
I am. It's evening where I'm at, so good evening, everybody. Afternoon, morning, wherever you might be. Thank you for inviting me and reaching out to Mrs. Pryor, who offered the opportunity to me. My name is Sade. It is spelt Shade, but it is pronounced Sade. A lot of people who have spoken have touched upon pretty much everything that I'm probably gonna go over. I can only speak to you from my experience. You need a village to support you. I don't have children. I don't have a family as such that I can say, all right, I need to go home, go to the kids or husband that I need to go look after. But nonetheless, you still need a support network around you. You have friends, you're going to have family. They need your time. So whilst you're pursuing a career in law, if that's your choice, I think it was the ambassador who said, whilst you might have a law degree, you may not necessarily practice law. I have lots of friends that I went to university with. We all graduated in law. There's probably 2 or 3 of us who are actually practicing law. Your degree does not mean you have to go into law. There are so many things you can do with it. But nonetheless, you need a support network around you. We like to think of ourselves as supermen and superwomen, but we're not. There's only one of you. You are a human being. You need to be able to try to find and get to a place where you can take some time out for you in order to be the best employee and employer, best boss, best lawyer you can be. You need to feed yourself. And that includes improving your knowledge, continuing to learn, but also taking time out to have a break, reset, recharge your batteries. You can try and go all the time. You're just going to burn yourself out. And out there are people who will look at the color of your skin, who will look at your background and think they want to try to use that to their advantage and take advantage of you. The time at which you are most vulnerable is when you are trying to do too much because you're trying to prove yourself. So my first thing is the fact that you are here is enough. You are worthy. You don't have to prove anything to anybody. You are enough. You are worthy. Please remember that. You're not competing with anyone but yourself. My mantra on a daily basis is, today I want to be a better version of myself than I was yesterday. I don't care who's next door. I don't care who's across the road from me. I don't judge myself by their standards. I only judge me based on my standards. Be honest, have integrity. It doesn't matter if you make mistakes. Acknowledge your mistakes, learn from them. No one is perfect, not by a long stretch. And just keep on improving. And you will get lots of knockdowns along the way. Those knockdowns will not necessarily be because of the color of your skin, won't be because of your sex, it won't be because of anything other than on that occasion, you simply were not good enough. Just keep on going. If at first you don't succeed, try, and just keep on trying. But stay true to yourself, stay true to your values, and just ensure that whatever it is you're doing is because you enjoy it. There is no point in selling your soul to the devil. You want to make lots of money, but you are miserable in doing what you are doing. It reflects in your work, it reflects in your, and it will seep through to your personal life, and it just affects every other area of your life. So enjoy it, be happy, and just keep on improving and being the best you can be for yourself, and that will reflect in the work that you do. There will be bias. There will be people. There will be. You're gonna come across situations where you work in an environment where men, no disrespect to the men on the webinar, where men who are doing less than you are getting paid more than you. You then have to know your worth. You have to be able to approach your bosses or anyone else that might be above you, your supervisors, to actually try to fight to be treated as an equal and seen as an equal. I know you are equals, but you have to make them see that. There has to be a reason they're not seeing that. And unless you put your case forward, you're just going to sit there seething all the time, and people are going to keep stepping over you. So whilst I say know your worth, whilst I say be the best you can be and act with integrity, don't let people walk all over you. You have to be able to stand and fight for what's rightfully yours with no fear. What's the worst you go to ask? What's the worst they can do? What's the worst they can say? They're going to say no. Okay, but you've knocked on that door. So even though you might not get what you've asking for at that time, they're aware that you recognize that there is some level of bias. You recognize that there isn't a level playing field between you and perhaps your male colleagues. There are prospects out there. There are prospects, there are possibilities. I did not go into this career to get to the stage that I did. I was raised in a typical Nigerian family, and I was raised with, you have to have a career. You go to school, you go to college, you go to university, you go and study. When you study, get a career, and then you can think about getting married, having children, buying a house, blah, blah, blah. That was the order. It was very strict upbringing that I had. So I did everything I was supposed to do. And then I got to the point of, well, what career do I want? Well, you can't be a secretary. That wasn't allowed. Doctors, lawyers, accountants. That was all my folks wanted. Luckily for me, I enjoy talking. I enjoy meeting people. I enjoy interacting with people. The law allows me to do that. And so that's what I settled on. And you might not necessarily be the first class A-star, A+ student. Don't worry about it. Neither was I. I graduated with a 2-2. Okay? I graduated with a 2-2. But yeah, here I am. I sit before you today. I practice in law. I specialize in crime, family, and regulatory. I appear at magistrates' courts. I appear at the Crown Courts. I appear at the Court of Appeal. Yes, I'm not a barrister, but I went one step further. Not only am I a solicitor, I obtained my higher rights of audience, which means I can do exactly everything a barrister does, but I also get to do what a solicitor does, which barristers are unable to do. So I get the best of both worlds. I defend, I don't prosecute, I defend, but the work I do is vast, it's varied, and it changes. No one day is ever the same. And I absolutely love it. I enjoy it. It's long, sometimes it's grueling, yes, but the satisfaction you get out of it at the end of every day, knowing that you have helped a family retain custody of their child, you have helped someone who is deserving avoid going to prison, you have helped somebody, you've just made some form of impact on someone's life. That is rewarding. My bank balance at the end of every month is not the most rewarding part of my job. This is it. It's the thank you that you get from your clients. That's what I find rewarding. And I didn't set out thinking I would become a partner. In fact, I didn't want to manage anybody. I didn't want to be a partner managing an office. No, I just simply wanted to do my job. At the end of the day, go home, and at the end of the month, get paid. Things have evolved, opportunities have arisen. I've taken them, and I'm grateful that I have, because it's opened so many doors that I didn't realize when I first started on this path were possible, not only because I'm a woman, but also because I'm a Black woman. So the opportunities are there. Do your research, constantly learn. Even if you feel like something is out of your reach or you don't think you're good enough, until you try, you won't know. So never stop trying, never stop knocking on doors, and don't doubt yourself. Invest in yourself, invest in your learning, invest in your education, invest your own time. In order to convince people to take a chance on you, they need to see that you've taken a chance on yourself. You are the product. You are the one that people see. And you are your own best marketing and advertising tool. So when you go out there and put yourself on stage, wherever your stage might be, make sure that what people see and hear is the best of you that there ever is, or that there is at that time. I don't know if there is really much more I can say other than that, really, and thank you guys for having me.
Thank you so much. This is a woman speaking right to our innermost beings, and this is a wake-up call for all women. Judge yourself based on your standard. You will be knocked down severally, but rise up and keep going. Don't sell yourself to the devil. Be the best you can for yourself. Thank you very much. Really appreciate your time here.
Thank you.
All right. We have two more speakers, and then we bring this whole program to an end. Our next speaker, who will be speaking for 8 to 10 minutes, is Miss Confidence Nabuche. She's a compliance officer at CFA Bank, UK. Welcome and happy International Women's Day, Miss Confidence.
Hi everyone. Hello Comfort, hello Chinyere. Thank you for putting this together. My name is Confidence Nwabuche. Sorry, it's fine, Comfort. Thank you for having me, everyone. I've been listening for over 1 hour and I have been I've learned a lot of things. I have drawn a lot of knowledge from the experiences of our past speakers. If you do not mind me, I'll just quickly run through my slides so that I will not bore you. Okay, let me do this. Yep, let's share this. Give me a minute. Okay. All right, just going to be speaking briefly. It's just less than 10 slides. Excelling in the legal profession as an African woman. I want to start off with an introduction. As Sade had said before me, I love the fact that she spoke about the diversity in law and the legal career. And as pointed out in my slides, it's not just about litigation. It's about, you can work in as a paralegal, as an associate, in-house lawyer, judge, prosecutor, data protection officer, compliance officer. I currently work in a bank as a compliance officer, a charity bank in the United Kingdom. And it's been, an awesome experience for me. And, you know, I'm sure many people would ask the questions as to how and why do you want to be, or why did you choose the career path of being a compliance officer? Here is my answer. When I was studying law, I knew what I didn't really know what I wanted from it per se as an undergraduate. And when I went to law school, Nigerian law school, I made a 2-1 from Nigerian law school. I made a 2-1 from my LLB, and I really wanted to be in the corporate world. And I studied in Nigeria, my LLB and the Nigerian law school. So I was at that point confused as to how am I going to navigate this. And there I got this, you know, intuition of, okay, I could go in for my master's and major in something different. And there I majored in financial regulations and compliance. And that was the open door for me, because prior to my current job, I've worked as a compliance officer, though in the health sector, and that had broadened my horizon towards seeing lots of opportunities that, you know, the legal profession can offer to anybody at any time. Even as a compliance officer, I was also a data protection officer as in conjunction to being that compliance officer back then. So maybe not swiftly, I'd just like to start with the challenges that we have, why I have been able to pick out. And one of it is a bit of misogyny in Africa, where men now wield a lot of influence. And, you know, from the slides, you can see the meaning of it and how this has affected us, like the challenges, this challenge, what has it been able to bring upon us as women? How is it, in the sense of, okay, I've had several experiences prior to now where I worked in law firms. Yes, I didn't mention that. So prior to my master's, I worked in 3 law firms before coming into majoring my master's. And, you know, as I said, I didn't want to work in the litigation aspect. I wanted to work in the corporate law and the financial world. And there, well, you know, I needed experience. So what did I need to do? I needed to know what get these experiences by, you know, going for law firms, because that was what was much more available, because it tends to be much more difficult to, you know, navigate as a lawyer into the banking world, into the financial world. And there again, we see situations and challenges as women whereby, okay. We see situations as women whereby we tend to just say, okay, it's a man's world, you know, you hear statements like that. And that has created an environment whereby women are looked down as being unable to deliver despite having vast experiences. I remember in my law school days, majority of people who came out with first classes in the Nigerian law school are 2-1s are females. And then one of my principal partners said something back then. He said, we see all the females make all this first class, and in 5 years' time, we don't hear about them. And it struck me as a woman, and I felt like, wow. But that was the truth, because we really like see some of them, because some of them just, in his words, have been relegated to, you know, being married and forgetting about, you know, what their passions are, something like. Well, thankfully, we've had women. As I listened to Barrister Chinyere, I listened to Ambassador Emenike, and these are women who have, you know, they have been able to get married and still have a career path whereby they are making impact. And this seems to be a challenge, even despite, you know, being in the generation we are in. Another challenge I've been able to pick point is impostor syndrome. This is, you know, due to the misconception that, you know, legal that women in legal career have been unable to do certain jobs, and this has, like, you know, in my words, it has like it brings about a mentality, like a lowered mentality, whereby, you know, a woman has so much to offer, but she's in that point to offer that all these things, and she's scared. I remembered when I started my job as a compliance officer, I literally struggled with this. Whereby I felt like, what could I offer to these people? But then I remember my professional coach said to me, confidence, you got this job. You didn't get it because you knew anyone in the bank. No, you got it because you smashed that interview amongst 8 other competitors there. Well, here I was in my little mind thinking, what can I contribute? And sometimes I'm making contributions, you know, subconsciously, and it's taken seriously. But unknown to us, many of us suffer from it. So these are the challenges that, subdues us from excelling in our legal profession. I'm moving off strictly on to the possibilities. As I stated, excelling in legal profession as an African woman is possible despite the aforementioned challenges that I've mentioned. So what's the first thing you need that we need to know what exactly you want from studying law. As I said, it's a disclaimer, not everyone would have a picture of exactly what they want to major in. Do not put pressure on yourself. Never, ever put pressure on yourself to say, oh my God, my mates they already know they want to be a chief judge. I had a lot of people who said that to my face and I didn't know what I was doing. But guess what? I made a 2-1. I smashed it in my LLB, smashed it in my BL, and I made a distinction in my LLM, which is my master's. Did I know what exactly I wanted? No. I felt like, God, like everyone was saying how their future is going to look like. It felt like I was lost, but it didn't stop me from studying. It didn't stop me from knowing that, okay, I started this degree, I'm going to finish it, and I'm going to finish it well. Embrace all the diversities in law. Learn to embrace it. Don't look down on anything, and at any point you are in, don't look down. It still takes you back to that challenge of the impostor syndrome. Embrace your current situation. You're a student. You embrace it. What am I doing? I'm in 300 level. What are the courses I'm to take? Part-time, create a plan. Don't create a plan part-time and also create a plan for the future, but also major in the plan part-time. Don't put yourself under unnecessary pressure and say, what exactly am I going to do with this world law I'm studying? Every day, things get better. Technologies are coming up. New adventures are coming up. Don't forget that. Next on my slide is development of certain skill sets. Remember, I said I had worked in 3 law firms before I became a compliance officer. How was I able to move on? Sorry, it's not because I've got an LLM in financial regulations and compliance, because I got my first job as a compliance officer whilst I was in that. But no, that wasn't why I was picked. Why I was picked was because I sat in that interview and I spoke to them and said, I've got transferable skill sets from my law firm, from my experience in law firm, and which I can be able to, transfer it into being a compliance officer. And they looked at me and said, what do you think? Like, tell me those skill sets. And I began to tell them communication skills, teamwork, this, that, and I put it down for them in line with what they wanted in that interview. And I got the job. The same as my current job. As I said, I worked in the health sector before working in the bank. And, I said to them, I've never worked in any financial institution, but here I am, I want to work in a financial institution. What do you want me to do? And immediately he said, okay, this is this, and this. And I tell them, I've got transferable skill set here again. So develop them. How do you develop them? One of it is commercial awareness, joining industry specific forums that will allow you to attend seminars like this particular seminar. Also listen to legal podcasts, read legal publications, be abreast with what is going on around you. Don't just sit in your place, oh, okay, I'm studying law, I'm just going to be doing. No, be aware. There is a point of, okay, I got invited. I don't know anyone on the board, but I got invited via LinkedIn. And via LinkedIn, I got my 2 jobs. I saw the job applications on LinkedIn. Get on good social medias that can help you and assist you in legal career. If you're on LinkedIn, you learn a lot of things daily. And it makes it so easy in the sense that you are in a particular location and you know what's happening around the world. Just the same way Instagram gives you what Instagram gives to you, and Facebook and all the rest of the social medias. LinkedIn is one thing you need to start having as a student, as a law student. I really, really recommend that. Going on, take that job and take that internship opportunity. What am I saying? Many times people feel like, oh, I don't think I want to work until I'm done with university. No, these are things I wish someone had told me when I was in university. Whilst you're on your 3 months, your summer break, you could divide it and split it into halves and say, I'm going to, use half to relax, and I'm going to use half to walk into a law firm and say, you don't need to pay me. I'm just going to be here serving. I just want to sit here and learn. And except that law firm is really, really rush, most of them will be like, oh, come in. I had that experience when I was waiting for my law school. I walked into a law firm and I said, I really want to learn. You don't have to pay me. And I got that experience. And that experience is still working for me. Don't, trivialize any opportunity whilst you're waiting for your dream job. I'm not saying take trash, but literally walk into a lot of, obviously there's no place you will ever be in and the experience will not count. Go the extra mile for you to be able to excel as a legal in the legal career. What am I talking about this? In conjunction with this is an extra mile. So as your mates are sleeping away, you're going around, doing a whole lot of things. You're going through internships, you're working, and you're going through externship experiences. And this is giving you a better perspective of what the legal career is. Moving on, I would love to talk about, finally, my last slide, control your emotions. As an African woman, what are we known for? How do you excel as an African woman in the legal profession? Control your emotions. We get that caption whereby we are emotional beings as human beings, as females. Don't use your femininity as an excuse to act out of emotions. Respond and never react. Sometimes you always want to react to things, like you're in a place and you want to disagree with someone and you see that in your face. No, you can learn this. You can develop a better emotional response to certain things. It's not, you can make your point clear without raising your voice as a woman. You can make your point clear without having to just pose and give that nasty, rude, unruly side of you. Learn to, it's developed. I'm currently developing mine. And when I'm telling you, I'm working towards it consciously by having to, I'm under a professional coach who coaches me on emotional intelligence. Once a week, I have that session with him whereby he's like, okay, you need to say this how to react. What do you do? Go online. Learn to consciously tell yourself to keep your emotions in check. Well, I want to say thank you for having me. I want to wish everyone happy International Women's Day. And if you didn't take anything home with you today, I just want you to always have that at the back of your mind. It is possible. Take that job opportunity, take that internship opportunity. No, you might not really know what exactly you want from the legal profession. Don't put pressure on yourself. It gets clearer. As you move, it gets clearer. It gets better. It gets better. Also, keep that emotion in check. Keep it in check. Do not forget to keep it in check. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Confidence. I don't know, but I'm very excited about what you have shared with us. Know what you want. Don't put pressure on yourself to do what you cannot do. In fact, for many of us, when we are in class and people start mentioning, I want to be a Supreme Court judge, I want to find myself here, and you begin to wonder if you also came to school or you just came to see them mention what they want their future to be. But this evening in Ghana and also evening in Nigeria, I don't know of the other jurisdictions, you have just told us that it doesn't just matter what is going on in your mind. Know yourself and do what you can do to help yourself. Thank you very much for having you. Now, I want to thank all our speakers. We have one last speaker, but unfortunately, she's unable to join. So we will end the meeting here, but I want to thank all our speakers for the thought-provoking presentations and ideas shared on this platform. This brings us to a stage where we can only appreciate you. We know that you have a lot on your desk. Today we had to be calling in and out, but you made time for us and we really appreciate that. I don't know, I think that we have about 2 of our speakers on the line. If you don't mind, kindly unmute and share your final thoughts with us in 30 seconds. Miss Confidence, since you just finished, you can share your thoughts with us while we try to see if the others are on the line.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about every other persons. I'm sorry, I apologize for that. Well, my final thought is don't put pressure on yourself. The legal profession is really divergent. read my lips. A lawyer is needed in every aspect and spheres and sectors of life. So don't put pressure on yourself to feel like, oh, wow, I need to know what exactly I need to know. No, what do you have in front of you right now? 300 level. Okay, I need to pass this exams. I know what you need to do. When you move to final year, the same thing. When you move to law school, the same thing. Try to ensure that you do not put pressure on yourself. Try to also ensure that you take those opportunities. Try to ensure that you are commercially aware. Like stop being that law student who just reading this. No, don't be that law student who just reads his books. Make his or books, but make sure that you are that law student who wants to go out there. You have to go the extra mile. And how do you go the extra mile? Attend webinars. How do you go the extra mile? Listen to legal podcasters. That's how you can be able to go, like, excel in the legal profession for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we are all responsible for our own thoughts and actions. And we can break the bias in our communities, our workplaces, our schools, our colleges, and our universities. Breaking the bias is a teamwork. When you do it alone, you run the risk that when you are no longer available, there is no one else to do it. Together, we all can break the bias and excel in the legal profession as African women today and beyond. All we ask for is a world where difference is valued and celebrated. We are very grateful for having you all on this platform today, especially for staying through with us almost 3 hours. It's not easy, but you have stayed with us, our viewers on Facebook and all the other platforms, as well as those who joined us here on Zoom. We are very much grateful, and African Student Association would always call on you. Kindly do well to respond to us when we call on you. You'll hear from us in the previous preceding weeks. Thank you very much, and God bless you all. Happy International Women's Day, everyone. This brings us to the end of this section. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello.
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 Good evening. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Wow. Our participants were waiting and we thought you wouldn't come.
No,
but this is a
so
meeting we are
for being
streaming
late.
live. No problem. We are streaming live. So though our participants here on Zoom have left, you can still present to us because we are having it online. They can join in later to watch online. Is that okay with you?
I understand. Hello. Hello, Jafar.
Hi, it's a pleasure to meet you finally. And
Same
thanks
here.
for coming.
So you want me to start with my webinar?
Okay, please let me introduce you.
Sure.
Okay, this is a great opportunity we have to listen to our last speaker whom we nearly lost, but we are glad we have her back here. Now we are speaking to Professor of Jurisprudence and International Law, Professor Dr. Vaishali Golivadekar. I hope I got it right.
You're doing good. You're doing good.
Good. Kindly, you have the floor so you may speak.
So may I start?
Yes, please.
Okay, so today I'm going to give you a presentation, a PowerPoint presentation about challenges which are there in front of African women and legal profession. So I'm just going to share my screen, which I made for the presentation. Miss Cody, is it all right? Is it visible?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Yeah. So I'm just going to go ahead with the slideshow. So women all over the world, they face challenges, irrespective of the profession. So let the profession be anything, women, they face challenges. Gender inequality is there throughout the world, and women, they feel it in their day-to-day lives, we can say. So despite the well-established international prohibition against discrimination on the grounds of gender, it is evident that women around the world continue to remain subject to gender-based discrimination in every profession. Okay, so gender-based discrimination is there in every profession. In some areas, this discrimination is blatant, yet in other areas, it may be less obvious. Full equality between men and women remains largely aspirational, and more needs to be done to ensure respect for the right to gender equality. The inequality between genders is not limited to poorer and uneducated sectors of the society, but it is also prevalent among sectors of society whose members are enabled to undergo more than basic education and are generally more comfortable financially, including those working in the legal sector. So that discrimination is there in every profession, and it is there in legal profession or legal sector as well. So what are the challenges which are there in front of a woman or African woman in legal profession? So challenges faced by African women are diverse. Traditional sexual stereotyping poses several problems. Not only the male peers, but clients too sometimes make assumptions about female lawyers and judges based on her gender. They often assume that female solicitor may be too soft to manage an aggressive negotiation or a complex litigation. So male colleagues, they underestimate female in Africa that they cannot manage aggressive negotiation or a complex litigation. In a few cases, though, the stereotype behavior of a male lawyer may be unintentional. So that it just happens. It's not intentional all the time, but it happens. The answer to this problem lies in cooperation between both genders. Both men and women should work together to create an unbiased work culture. So let us go through these challenges one by one. First challenge, which is faced by women lawyers or women judges or women in legal profession, is work-life balance. The lack of work-life balance is one of the major obstacles that female lawyers face. Most lawyers have to work late hours and remain accessible almost 24/7. It can be challenging for a woman, particularly a single mother, to practice law in such arduous time frames. However, in today's technology-driven world, it is easier to attain a suitable work-life balance. Most female solicitors use the combination of flexible working hours and work at home to juggle their professional and personal commitments. Creating work-life balance is a learning process that requires patience. So don't be disheartened by a few setbacks. Just make sure to formulate a plan that benefits everyone and stick with it. So work-life balance is a real problem which is faced by women lawyers or by women judges, but yes, you can work on it. Next problem is sexual harassment. Lawyers often advise their clients to curb different types of workplace harassment, particularly sexual harassment. It is ironic as lawyers are expected to lead by example. In fact, they are considered as the sentinels of the law. Sexual harassment includes any unwelcome sexual advances, requests for sexual favors, or other verbal or physical conduct of a sexual nature. One of the common forms of sexual harassment experienced by a female lawyer is the use of manipulation of gender issues as a trial tactic by male lawyers. Male counsels can also make comments on the personal appearance of a female lawyer during the courtroom proceedings, often to intimidate her. So this type of things, they happen with lady lawyers and judges. The good news is that the percentage of female legal professionals experiencing sexual harassment is on a gradual but steady decline. So that percentage is declining. But workplace harassment statistics show that it's a worldwide statistics. More than 1 in 3 women in legal industry still experience this sexual harassment. The complete eradication of this problem is a matter of strict implementation of workplace harassment laws. So second challenge, which is faced by African female lawyers or judges or women in legal profession, is sexual harassment from colleagues or sexual harassment from people working in superior positions. Next is gender wage gap. So there is a gap between wages. So what is that? Though gender pay gap exists in almost all professions, female lawyers earn a significantly less pay compared to their male counterparts. So female lawyers are paid less than their male counterparts. One of the common reasons for this disparity is that men can lead more clients compared to their female counterparts by tapping an old boys network at other law firms. So boys, they have their networks and they get more and more clients through the law firms. Though this may be true in certain cases, most female partners have to face blatant inequality in pay, despite pulling in more business than their male partners. So female lawyers are sometimes paid less as compared to male lawyers. So there is a gender wage gap which exists in this profession. Cody, I hope I'm audible and visible.
Yes,
Ms.
please.
Cody?
You are.
I am. Thank you so much. I'll go to my next slide. Next point is, or next challenge, which is faced by females or women in legal profession is backlash for assertiveness. Although assertiveness is a requirement for the job, many female lawyers feel they receive the criticism for being too direct. The backlash from colleagues leaves African women walking on a thin line between being perceived as too passive or too aggressive. So women, they are blamed for assertiveness even in legal profession. Okay, and they have to manage a thin line between being perceived as too passive or too aggressive. So that is a challenge. Backlash for assertiveness is faced by African women in legal profession. Next point is interruptions. Female Supreme Court justices are interrupted more than male counterparts. So isn't it shocking? Supreme Court justices are interrupted more than their male counterparts. If this happens to women in the highest position of the court, what must be like for female lawyers across the nation? Consequently, many women feel unheard during legal arguments and believe that they have to work harder to prove their points. Imagine if judges are being interrupted frequently, then what female lawyers are going to go through. This type of unconscious bias remains unaddressed, leading to consistent interruptions even by subordinate male colleagues. In such circumstances, gender is more significant factor than seniority. Correcting this issue requires stricter enforcement of the consequences of interruptions. So not only female lawyers or solicitors, but female judges also get interrupted from their male colleagues or from their clients. Next point is penalties for parenthood, for motherhood. Women lawyers are often penalized for their parental and extended family responsibility. Many legal firms fail to recognize these familiar obligations or provide options that contribute to a healthier work-life balance. Female attorneys also miss out on opportunities for promotions and career advancements due to pregnancy or parental leave. So motherhood takes a toll. They lose their jobs at big firms or they get paid less. So that's what happens to female lawyers. Although many women of color or African women want to leave the profession because of these adversities, pressure to provide for their families financially often drives them to stay. So they are kind of punished for being mother by these firms who pay them less. Coming to next challenge, or a challenge which was discussed in ICJ, African women lawyers and human rights defenders gathered together at International ICJ Colloquium, International Court of Justice Colloquium, held in Zimbabwe in 2014, reported a number of reprisals they have routinely experienced as a result of their work in protecting human rights, which have impacted their ability to carry out their professional roles. Threats upon their security varied in nature from threats upon their lives to threats of more insidious variety that left them feeling isolated within their communities. They reported being subjected to the following by state actors: arbitrary arrest, travel sanctions, denial of violations of their rights, searches of their houses and offices, and state intrusion into the personal sphere where police interview and interrogate their family members. So these are the real experiences which we are going to go through in next slide. Examples. An example of the dangers women human rights defenders or human lawyers can face was provided by one woman lawyer from Malawi who told the ICJ that her life was threatened by gang members acting in collusion with the local police force. So human rights defenders or human rights lawyers, lady lawyers working in the area of human rights, they get threatened by people in collaboration with local police force. So that is a real example which is given by a woman lawyer in Malawi in ICJ colloquium. Second example, one Kenyan lawyer, a lawyer from Kenya, explained at the ICJ Zimbabwe colloquium that as a result of their work in promoting the rights of women, people will be at risk. Human rights defenders will suffer. They will be vilified because it's like you are disturbing the status quo. Women human rights defenders have been subject to such attacks and sexual violence, including rape, with the aim of silencing them. Such attacks also aim and serve to deter other women from getting involved in the work. So people threaten them, they are raped, they are sexually harassed, okay? And what was the purpose? To silence them. If they try to raise their voice, if they try to talk about human rights violation in certain area, those lawyers are threatened and their voice is silenced. And that's why lady lawyers, they are scared of working in these areas where human rights violations are more rampant. So these are the threats which are real threats. So these were the challenges which we discussed in these slides. So what is the conclusion? Women human rights defenders in Africa, women lawyers and women judges in Africa, some of whom are lawyers, continue to carry out an important role in promoting and safeguarding the fundamental rights of others. Such women often carry out this essential function at great risk to themselves and in protecting the rights of others. Themselves require protections. They need protection, right? Human rights defenders have faced reprisals for their work because the nature of their work involves their challenging authorities to uphold the rights of others, some of which are deeply unpopular both among state actors and the wider community. Women human rights defenders have also faced reprisals when their work is viewed as disturbing the status quo of patriarchal societies. States must create an environment which enables women human rights defenders and lawyers to carry out their work in safety, free from reprisals, including harassment, arrest, prosecution, violation, and death. Women human rights defenders and lawyers must also be able to carry out their work on the basis of equality, free from gender discrimination, emanating from state actors, judicial authorities, within their own communities, within their workplaces, or elsewhere. So in short, women lawyers and judges and women working in the sphere of law, they need stricter laws, they need protection, they need that safety jacket around them while working in this profession. They need more considerate maternal policies or maternal laws. They need this protection if they want to survive and go ahead in this profession. So that's it about my today's presentation. And I'm really happy that you heard it patiently. I hope it helps. I hope I covered many challenges. That's what I could do. So I would like to listen more from Ms. Cody.
Wow, fantastic, Professor Dr. Vaishali. I mean, thank you so much for the thought-provoking presentation and ideas shared on this platform with us. We had heard a lot, but this is like a conclusion of everything. Mostly we say the best comes last, and I think that we've had the best at this last moment, and we are very glad we had you. Thank you for the time spent with us.
My pleasure.
Great. And so, ladies and gentlemen, this doesn't happen, but this is the second time we are ending this meeting, and we are glad you still stayed with us. Many women have come before us and worked under more difficult circumstances. We take inspiration from their resilience, determination, and great contribution. We here this moment pledge to continue with the foundation they have laid as we confront and flatten existing barriers. As I mentioned early on, all we ask for is a world where difference is valued and celebrated. Happy International Women's Day, and thank you for having spent your time with us today.
It was my pleasure. Nice to be here, and all the best to your association.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye. See you.